Hey, are you ready to change your life? If the answer is yes, there's only one rule. You have to change your mind first. And my friend, there's a place where the neuroscience of how your mind works smashes together with faith and everything starts to make sense. That place is called self-brain surgery. You can learn it, and it will help you become healthier, feel better, and be happier. And the good news is you can start today.
Thanks, Lisa. Hey, so glad to have you listening today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren, and I live in Nebraska in the United States of America with my incredible wife, Lisa, my father-in-law, Tata, and the super pups, Harvey and Lewis. I'm a neurosurgeon and an author, and I'm here to help you harness neuroscience, the power of your brain, faith, the power of your spirit, and good old common sense to help you lead a healthier, better, happier life. Listen, friend, you can't change your life until you change your mind, and I'm here to help you learn the art of self-brain surgery to get it done. If you like the show, please subscribe so you never miss an episode, and tell your friends about it. If you tell 2 or 3 friends this podcast was helpful to you, imagine how much good we can all do around the world together. I'm Dr. Lee Warren, and I'm here to help you change your mind so you can change your life. Let's get after it. Well, friend, we're back. It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon here on the river. What there is of it, there's hardly any water in the river, isn't there, Tata?
That's correct, yeah. It's very dry. See the sandbars.
You can. The dogs walked all the way across and barely got above their knees. Do dogs have knees? Is that what you call it in dogs?
I think so.
I think so. Elbows?
Yeah.
I don't know. If there's a zoologist listening, let us know. What do you call dogs' knees or elbows? So if we're talking on Sunday afternoon, obviously it must be Tuesdays with Tata.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, I shouldn't say that. This is your show. Well, friend, we are excited. So we're about 6 weeks from book launch. We've got outstanding guests coming on the show. We're here in season 8 now for 100 Doses of Hope. So Tata's going to direct us today towards some hope from the Word, as he always does. And what you got for us, Tata?
Well, you recall that some time ago we talked about Daniel and
Yes.
that he prayed 3 times a day, and he prayed for 21 days. And then the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "We heard you on the first day."
That's right.
But what I was thinking about, why not go back to the beginning and see what this man was like?
It's a good idea.
And in Daniel chapter 1, and I'll give you an opportunity to get there, and I'm not going to read all of it, but some of it I want to read because it is very important, because you recall that in this chapter of the book, the writer Daniel talks about when Nebuchadnezzar came from Babylon, he captured Jerusalem and Judea. Excuse me. And he even took some of the items back from the temple back to his God,
Yes.
back to his temple. And then he also commanded his chief to bring, and then verse 3, to bring some of the people of Israel, both of the family and the nobility, youths without blemish, of good appearance, and skillful in all wisdom, endowed with knowledge, understanding, and learning, and competence to stand in the king's palace.
Wow.
To teach them the literature and the language of the Chaldeans. And he also assigned, the king also assigned a portion of the food that they ate at the king's table, a portion of his food and a portion of his wine. And he gave the chief steward 3 years to teach. So now, one thing that I've always wondered about, because the only reference we have is that to bring the youth.
Right.
So I'm guessing that Daniel and his friends were in their teens. And I have no evidence for that. I'm just surmising that. But and even the chief steward even changed their names. He changed Daniel's name, but we all remember Daniel and the lion's den.
That's right.
We always remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the fiery furnace. And we remember that Daniel was cast into the lion's den because he prayed. Mm-hmm. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were cast into the fiery furnace because they refused to worship the idol.
That's right.
So they made a decision. But one of the things that stands out to me in verse 8, but Daniel resolved. And I didn't search that out further. I looked in the NIV, and the same word appears. That Daniel resolved. But I did look that up in Webster's. He made a decision.
Yeah.
He made a choice.
Yep.
But it was with determination. He determined that he would not eat, or he would not defile his body with the king's food or drink the king's wine.
He set his mind on it.
He set his mind on it. That's right. But he made it. He made a choice.
That's right.
He decided. And Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore, he asked the chief steward to allow him not to defile himself. And God gave Daniel favor and compassion.
Yep.
In the sight of the chief steward. And think about this man. This man was operating under the king's orders. And included not only teaching Daniel and his associates the literature and the culture of the Chaldeans and the language of the Chaldeans, but he instructed him to give them food from his table. So he was assimilating them into the culture.
That's correct.
And not by their choice. And so if you stop and think, here they are 4 young men who have been captive, but now they have an opportunity. But Daniel made a decision. Now, what did that say? Is Daniel the spokesperson for that group? Apparently. Mm-hmm. But he trusted God. And so, but we see that all 4 of them did. Trusted God completely. And he made a deal with the steward. The steward was even concerned, even though he had the Lord blessed Daniel with favor and compassion with the steward. That man had still concerns about his own head.
Yeah.
He was worried that the king would take his head if he did not do exactly what the king said.
That's right.
But he agreed. So Daniel asked for 3 days of vegetables and water, and not to eat any of the food from the king's table.
Yeah.
But Daniel resolved that he would do that. Now, what did that look like? He made a choice.
Yeah.
If he was ordered to do it, would he do it? Probably not, if he resolved that he would not defile himself.
Right.
That's the one that maybe he took a stand.
He did.
He made a decision.
He did.
He made a choice. And Daniel told the chief, said, examine us in 3 days while we are on this diet of vegetables and water, and see if we appear any different.
Yeah.
The steward was concerned that they might not look different.
Right.
But he did it anyway.
Look worse.
They could be worse. But at the end of 3 days, he found that they were in better shape than the rest of the young men that were ate at the king's table.
That's right. The Lord blessed them.
Yes, and led him. And why did God bless him? Why did he find favor with God? Because he resolved, and he made a decision, he made a choice not to defile himself.
Right. He stayed true to his God and didn't let culture sway him.
That's right. And remember that Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were captives.
That's right.
They were not guests.
That's right.
They were.
So it would have been easy for them to just say, "Well, they're making me do this."
Yes, that's right. They could have made another choice that said, "We're going to do whatever they tell us to do."
That's right.
But he decided that he was going to please God.
That's right.
Daniel did, and the four of them decided that.
That's right.
And so at the end of 3 years, and so back anyway to that diet, the steward agreed to even provide that diet for them, and they did not have to eat at the king's table. At the end of the 3 years, and as for the 4 youths, Daniel, Shadrach, and Abednego, God gave them learning and skill and literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams.
That's right.
So he was blessed even more.
That's right. So there's something, we were talking about this at brunch after church today. We had brunch or lunch I had a chicken fried steak. Some people
I know you did. I saw that. It was as big as your plate.
Some people had omelets and breakfast, but I had lunch. It's okay. I ran 5 miles today, so it's okay. We were talking about the fact that it seems like every company and every media person and every celebrity is looking just like the culture. Like that, even Chick-fil-A, has ads now that are contrary to their stated Christian worldview. And so the question at lunch was Madison Genatone, who's a young sophomore in high school, and she was like, "How can anybody stay pure in this culture when it seems like everybody is bending the knee, right?
That's right.
Is becoming the same."
That's right.
And we talked about this, and we mentioned, just like with Daniel, who resolved that he would not absorb the culture and he would not defile himself and he would not disobey his God. God always has a group who are faithful to him. That reference in in 1 Kings 19, he said, "I have left for myself 7,000 in Israel whose knees have not bowed to Baal and their mouths have not kissed him." Like so all the time there are people who are true to the Lord, which means you can do it too.
That's right.
It's a decision, just like you said. Daniel resolved that he was going to stay true to the Lord, and that's what Madison was getting at. Like you have to be purposeful about it. And there's something interesting I read recently, and I'm struggling to remember where I read it. It might have been John Mark Comer's book, Live No Lies, and he was talking about how it seems like the church these days is trying to influence people by being kind of a less sinful version of the culture.
Yeah.
We're trying to become like the culture, but also with Jesus.
1 foot in and 1 foot out.
And what's happening though, if you look at all the surveys, Dad, church attendance is at an all-time low.
Yes.
People who say they believe the Bible is really the Word of God is at an all-time low. And what we're doing as a church, we're looking more like culture, but we're having less impact.
That's right.
For the kingdom. And the book I was referencing said, if you look at the first century and what happened, it said the whole world had heard about Jesus within a couple of generations.
That's right.
Why? Because they were different than the culture around them.
That's right.
And that made people say, my culture makes me feel hopeless, but those people have something I want.
That's right.
And so the bottom line is the devil will make you think that you need to bend the knee. The devil will make you think that you need to do what Daniel refused to do. To be cool or to fit in or to even save your skin sometimes to get in the lines.
That's right.
But the truth is, the more true you are to God, the more impact you'll have and the more He will bless you.
That's right. Because at the end of the 3 years, when they took them, when the four young men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel, were taken in, and they stood before the king, and therefore, and in every matter of wisdom, and this is verse 26, and in every matter of wisdom and understanding about what the king inquired of them. So he cross-examined them.
Yeah.
He questioned them.
Yeah.
Because they had spent 3 years in training. He found them, all 4 of them, 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in his kingdom.
That's right.
So you see, at the end of the day, now 3 years, if you think about 3 years, it's a long time, but then it isn't. In terms of what's happening today, it may not be very long.
Yeah.
But they went through a training program of 3 years, intensified, to learn the language and learn the culture and learn the literature.
That's right.
So they were immersed. For 3 years they were immersed. But then God blessed them because when they stood before the king, the king himself, Nebuchadnezzar, found them 10 times more knowledgeable than even his magicians and enchanters that were in his palace.
They grew up there. Yeah,
That's
the
right.
best of the best. It's amazing.
It is stunning to me, but they did not stop there. We know the rest of the story about Daniel praying and refusing not to pray.
Yeah.
And he was thrown into the lion's den, and the Lord saved him.
Yep.
And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to worship the idol that the king had set up.
That's right.
That Nebuchadnezzar himself had set up. He had built it, had it built. They were thrown into the fiery furnace, and Nebuchadnezzar even looked in the furnace himself and saw 4 people walking around.
That's right.
There were not 3, there was 4.
That's right.
So, and when they took them out of the fire, they didn't even have a scent of smoke on them, and they were not singed.
That's right.
Isn't that so? That in itself, to me, is a miracle.
It is a miracle.
Both of those events were miracles.
And when you're in the fire, Jesus will be there with you.
Amen.
Because
right.
that's who was there.
That's right. And so all of this is to say this, that Daniel made a decision. He made a choice. He was an influencer.
Yep.
So he decided that he would not defile himself. And he stood firm in that.
That's right.
And he even made a deal with the king's representative. Let us have festivals and water.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about the what we might say today in the street is the guts of that decision.
Yeah. Well, it's like what Elijah did last week. We talked about. Oh, okay. We're going to set up an altar, and I'm going to douse mine with water.
Yeah,
I'm going to show you what my God will do.
That's right.
Like Daniel's saying, okay, your guys can eat all this stuff, and your guys can learn all these things. Give us a few days, and we'll show you what our God can do.
Amen.
That's what happened.
Exactly.
And so, friend, I guess listening, the bottom line for us is, what are we going to resolve? Are we going to try to look like the culture because it's safer, because it sounds more fun, that Jesus has given us grace and we're going to be saved anyway, so we're just going to look like the culture?
Yeah.
We're not going to be risky. We're not going to stick our necks out. Or are we going to resolve to be different, to be the people that other people look to and say, I want some of that?
That's right.
Because the truth is, when things get hard, when there is a fire, when the massive thing comes, and all of us have or will have them, you've had them, I've had them, we've had some of them together.
Yes.
And when the massive thing comes, you're going to need to make some resolutions, aren't you, Dad?
That's right.
I'm going to go in this fire, and I got to get after it. And I'm either going to take God, I'm going to go with God, or I'm going to do it on my own.
That's right.
So that's the question for today, isn't it?
That's correct. So you have to make a choice.
That's right. And there's a story we heard recently. I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast, but in terms of making a choice, there's a temptation to not make a choice. And there's a story we heard about a guy who was sitting on a fence. Mm-hmm. We talked about this the other day. It raises the hair on my arm when I talk about it. The guy sitting on a fence, and on one side of the fence is heaven and God's people and all the good stuff, and on the other side of the fence is hell and the devil and the demons and all the bad stuff. And he just is sitting on the fence, and he hasn't decided what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And pretty soon, God gets up and whistles, and everybody goes with him, and they all leave. And then the devil gets up and says, y'all come with me, and everybody leaves, and the guy's sitting there alone on the fence by himself. And he still hasn't made a decision. He didn't go towards hell with the devil. He didn't go towards God to heaven. And then all of a sudden the devil comes back. And he says, I forgot to take you with me. And the guy said, well, I didn't choose to go with you. And he said, I know, but the fence belongs to me. Yeah. The fence belongs to me. Yes. Listen, friend, you don't get to not make a choice.
That's right.
Because the negative choice, the absence of choice, the neglect of making a choice is a choice.
That's right.
You're either with God or you're not with him.
That's right. The question that I've heard people pose many times, and you as well, but why would a good God send people to hell? He doesn't. Mm-hmm. People make a decision to go there.
He doesn't make you go to heaven.
That's right.
But he doesn't send you to hell.
No.
You get to choose that.
That's right.
And you don't have to. It's so easy to make the right choice. But the question is, will we stand up against culture? Will we stand up when it's hard? Because it is going to get hard.
That's right.
It's going to get hard.
That's right. If I could paint you a picture of what these 4 young people, these 4 youths were looking at, it had to be terrifying for them. 4 young people who had been taken away from their homes.
That's right.
Had been taken away from everything that they knew. But yet Daniel resolved. He made a decision, a willful, determined decision.
That's right.
That he would not defile himself.
That's right.
And he did not. And God blessed him.
That's right. And we want that. We want to be the people who will make a choice, who will set our intention and follow through, as our Peloton instructor says. So the real question then, I guess, is if we're going to make a resolution like that, Tata, when should we start?
Start today.
Hey, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the show so you automatically get every episode. And if you like the show, you'll love my weekly letter. Check out my writing at drleewarren.substack.com, drleewarren.substack.com. Get the free newsletter every week for my best prescriptions for becoming healthier, feeling better, and being happier through the power of faith and neuroscience smashing together via self-brain surgery. drleewarren.substack.com. And if you need prayer, go to the prayer wall at wleewarrenmd.com/prayer. The theme music for the show is Make Us One by Tommy Walker, graciously provided for free by the great folks over at TommyWalkerMinistries.org. Check it out and consider supporting them. TommyWalkerMinistries.org. Remember, you can't change your life until you change your mind. And the good news is you can start today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I'll talk to you soon. God bless you, friend. Have a great day.